How does it feel to be autistic? This is a very challenging question to answer, and the answer is very nuanced. I don't know what it's like to not be autistic. I don't know what it's like to be neurotypical. And so, in describing what autism feels like, it's a very subjective answer. Everyone's experience of being human is completely different. And so I only know my own experience, and so I'll do my best to describe that. And also learning more about autism has given me the language and words to describe exactly what I am feeling on the inside, and it's given me a way to express things that I just never even knew how to express my whole life. So I'll start with this. As autistic people, our brains don't really filter out information. We tend to take in everything. This is why we are often overstimulated. Certain lights, like bright overhead lights, certain smells, certain textures, certain sounds, all can be very overstimulating to the point that it is actually like quite painful in our bodies. For me, if I'm overstimulated, it makes me want to like jump out of my skin. It is so uncomfortable. And this is a pretty frequent occurrence. The world that we live in is not sensitive and is quite overwhelming. And so pretty much anytime I leave the house, I feel this overstimulation. And of course, there's different things I could do, like using earplugs to help with this. So this leads me to my next point. Because of this overstimulation, we are often tired, we are often exhausted. Our bodies often have a challenging time regulating, understanding our emotions, understanding what we're experiencing. All of these things can lead to meltdowns or shutdowns where our bodies just like can't take it anymore. Being autistic also comes with a lot of social challenges. There's a lot of aspects of society and a lot of aspects of communication that I just don't understand. I'm also very direct and very clear in the way that I speak and the way that I express myself. And it can be challenging because most people aren't like that. Most people don't mean exactly what they say. And so this can lead to a lot of confusion, a lot of misunderstanding. As autistic people, we also tend to be misperceived by neurotypical people just due to this barrier in the way that we communicate and the way that we understand communication. For me personally, I also find that my brain and thinking style is extremely rigid. I tend to perseverate on things, which means I almost like get stuck on certain thoughts. This perseveration can be more like stuck on anxious thought loops, or it can be stuck on like my special interests. No matter what I do, I just can't take my mind off of that. Along with this rigidity, I find that any sort of change in plans or change in schedule or change in my routine is also quite dysregulating for my nervous system. And while anxiety and ASD are two different things, I think that a lot of the traits that we experience as autistic people can lead to us also feeling quite anxious. These are just a few things that I can think of, and one thing I want to make very clear is that autism is a spectrum, and all of us on the autism spectrum experience these things a little bit differently. There's also so much more to the autistic experience than I can even put into words. These are just some things that I've found the language to describe, things that I've learned to express, but there's so much more to our experiences. And I also want to make it clear, because I know that some people aren't going to understand this, that most humans will probably relate to the things that I said. But the key difference here is that these things are to an extreme level in autistic people, to the point that it is disabling, to the point that it does cause us issues. So just because you might relate to one or two of these things, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are autistic. And again, I'm using words and language to describe these things that don't really have the right terminology for them. I wish there was a different way to describe this to show just the extent of how challenging these traits can be at times.